Hello, welcome to the Zoe Unfiltered Podcast. Today I have on my show Desiree Cardoso. I'm very excited to have her here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
Are you kidding? I've been super excited about this.
I'm so excited. I'm really excited. You know, I just feel like you have so much to offer people.
Thank you.
I feel like your story is inspirational.
Thank you.
I feel like who you are as a person, you have a lot to offer and a voice.
Thank you.
And so, you know, I want to share that voice and I want to talk about things. I want to talk about your story. I want to talk about things that are important to you, what you're passionate about. You have a son, Dylan.
Yep. 13. God help me.
Yeah, he's a lovely kid, very creative, very self-determined. Very, very much so. And you come from a background of education. So it's really interesting to have someone who has an educational background and going into finance because as we know, there is such a lack of education out there the subject of finance.
Yep.
We learn by the examples that are set for us from the moment that we're children to what our friends do to...
That's a big influence too.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And then the people that you surround yourself with and what you see and your own habits and your own weaknesses. And what I found definitely with finance is it's just like, people have the same problems that they have with like getting on and sticking to a diet to result. It's like literally the same thing.
Very true.
It's totally the same thing.
It's that habit set.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, what inspired you to get into finance?
Well, I really, with a lot of your help, I have to say, you are one of the very few people that could tell me the way it really is and not make me crumple up and cry.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. No, it's very positive.
Okay, good.
That you did that a number of years ago, because there was a number of things that I was not confronting in finance. And I was very uneducated in finance. And that brought me to a spot that I didn't have a lot of control.
Right.
Okay. And I was coming from a viewpoint that I needed and wanted to have a lot of control. Okay. So when we had that conversation at your house, and my husband at the time was a licensed agent in your office, and I would definitely consider myself a unsupportive spouse.
Okay.
At that time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I would go to things and this and that, but like, I was like, not like all in, right? You know, we had life insurance, but I was like, honestly, who cares? You know, that's never going to happen to us. Right? Well, it did. And because you could communicate with me truthfully, and I could have that, it took me a number of years, but I did come out of it.
Right.
And when what happened almost 7 months ago happened, the unspeakable, that we had to cash in the policy. I can't
even believe getting that call and
I
what
think
you
about
went
that
through.
all the time, Zoe. You were my very first call, and you were one of my very first calls in the hospital when you found out, because my husband, for those of you that don't know, was an athlete. Looked amazing.
He was in good shape. For all intents and purposes, he had a perfect health rating when he got his policy years ago, right? Just undiagnosed, really.
Undiagnosed. We still don't really, I don't think I'll ever fully understand the physical aspect of it. The other aspect of it, I feel like I understand. You know, everybody has their own things. But when he had the heart attack, you know, he called me. Right. And we didn't know it was a heart attack, all this stuff. You know, you fast forward it 6 days later, I'd already talked to you. You're like, oh my God, you know, word gets out. Right. Especially we're in a tight knit community, and you're definitely part of our tight knit community. And, you know, I never expected that outcome.
Right.
But on that day when I had to make the decision, you know, I had to line up all of the things that would be important to him. And definitely as a licensed life insurance agent, and he's helped lots of families. Yeah. He and I came together 24 years ago because of our love for helping others.
That's right. You had the nonprofit background, right?
That's right.
You did drug rehabilitation.
Correct. 100% natural, freed many, many beings of drug abuse over the years. You know, I was an educator. I was very drawn to that because I'm a credentialed special ed and regular ed teacher with a master's of education. And I had many, many kids in my classroom that were on drugs, and I never liked it. Okay. Right. I always saw all of the outpoints for those children to be on drugs and never helped anything. The kids, it was a nightmare, right? So when I found that there were ways to handle your life's problems without drugs, like in that situation, I was super drawn to that. That's how I met my husband. Right. In the end of 1999. Right.
Wow.
Yep. And then I decided to leave teaching and do a different type of teaching type of thing with a nonprofit. And I did over 10,000 people in drug education. And my husband was from Brazil, and we moved to Brazil. He hadn't been there in a long time, but we moved to Brazil, and we put that program with over a 78% success rate in that country and helped lots of people. Yeah. Fast forwarding it to that day that I had to make the decision, right? Being able to call you, knowing you're one of my very good friends, made it easier, and knowing that we had made that decision a long time ago, way before we even had children. We had life insurance.
Right.
And doing that was part of the closure for him to honestly be able to go.
Right.
And to know that my son and I would be taken care of well. And to know that you and Coleman would be there for us.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually reminds me, it's really unfortunate. It's the one part of the job, I guess, that can be a little tough, right? Emotionally.
Oh my God.
But I remember this one client, we're going a few years back, and he was like early 60s, healthy.
Yeah.
Also athletic, like
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he called me. So he had never had life insurance in his life, and he actually had 5 kids, but they were all grown up now. But he had a wife who was a homemaker, and she hadn't worked at all since they got married, because she was that was her job, right?
Yeah, great.
And he had never actually agreed with. He had such a thing on getting life insurance.
Oh, and I know.
It took, and I get it, honestly, because I've been doing this long enough to know all the different types of buttons and ways that people feel and ideas that they have on it, or difficulties facing the subject.
Yeah.
But I didn't give up on him, and I followed up with him for 11 months. And originally he was going to take $1 million policy.
Yep.
But in the end, he said, I just want $250. And at this point, I had followed up with him for 11 months. For all intents and purposes, I actually lost money doing this, because the amount of work.
It's not about it.
It's not really, but the amount of work that it took to get him to take the policy, I was like, oh my gosh, But I liked him. I cared about him. So he took it.
Yeah.
I get this call 6 months later. And he got a good health rating. Like, there was nothing. There was no signs of anything. He calls me with his wife, and he said, Zoe, I just want to thank you. And I was like, what's happening? Because it also seemed like something, he was going to tell me something. And he's like, thank you for not giving up on me. I just found out that I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It's kind of, this is it, and the wife, they had already had their discussions come to terms that she was like, why didn't we get the $1 million? Because the truth is,
we didn't either.
Yeah. And it's sad. And it's like, I told them, I was like, listen, based off of your income and your lifestyle and whatever, you need this.
Yep.
And I look back and I was like, man, I did follow up with him for 11 months, but I wish I would have insisted a bit more. Hindsight's always 20/20.
True.
But
True.
I thought, my mental state was like, okay, at least he's a client. He's got something. Next
100%,
year.
100%.
Next year, when I do the annual review, I'll have him take a look at it again, but I didn't get next year.
Yep.
But thank goodness we had something.
Same.
Because the truth is, she'd be living with one of her kids if that wasn't the case, but she was accustomed to a lifestyle.
Yep.
And as a result of this, she was older, not as healthy. In fact, it was a little like they were kind of shocked, because they figured that she would be, with her health, that she wouldn't last as long as him, what the crazy twist of fate was, honestly. And so in the end, she had to sell her house.
Well, my husband was way more fit, honestly, than I am.
It's crazy.
Right. So I never looked at it like, oh, he's going to outlast me at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you looked at fitness levels and things like that, he left me in the dust.
Right. It's just,
and I'm younger too.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. And I'm seeing this trend. I think it is really important to get people it's like there's a skill to getting people to face it, confront it, but not making them feel bad about it.
Yeah.
It's very important. And I find in our industry, we need more people that can convey concepts and enlighten.
You're very good at that.
Okay, good.
You're very good at that.
I try because I think in finance insurance, it's really, people will buy out of fear. And, you know, I've never really gotten on board with that. No. I really like to try to enlighten, expand, educate, and make people want it. Yeah. I also feel like they walk away. Yeah, they walk away better with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so funny. Like people it's like they never think it's going to happen, but it's like inevitable. It's just a matter of when or how, right?
It's all confront.
It's all ability to face it.
Exactly what happened with me. Thank God we had it. I have no regrets or anything like that. And we had like a good amount, but we didn't have the million.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, we were looking at, my husband said to me, he goes, we should really raise, our life insurance. My first thought was, oh my God, we're going to have to like take tests again. And I thought, oh my God, what if they find something on me? No confront. If they did, great, right?
Right.
Not great, but great in the sense that you know what it is and you can go forward. I could not confront. That's what you penetrated a number of years ago when we first moved from Southern California, when I went from a job making quite a bit of money as an educator, only working 4 days a week, okay, to coming to a totally new area with a totally new purpose, and having to confront the same SoCal lifestyle on a Florida type of income when you're starting all over again.
Right.
Okay. And at your house in the kitchen, it's only you and one other person that could have said that to me. And I was like, I had to really look at myself and my responsibility.
Right.
And it took me a little bit to do that, but that started it. And now I feel like even though this happened, I know that especially on Monday, no, was it Friday? It was Friday.
Yeah.
We made Marcelo really proud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Me too.
I feel like it's all come full circle. Like
it has.
Marcelo always wanted, so for our listeners and our viewers, Marcelo was a licensed real estate agent. He had a lot of passion. He had more passion for that than anything.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually near the end, like for years, he wasn't actively doing anything.
Yeah.
But he had always wanted this. And it was really funny because I'm now recalling conversations that we had years ago about wanting to get you involved and all that stuff. So it's like, that
was the subject of a few arguments, let me tell you.
It's all come full circle. It's all come full circle. But I'm very excited for the future.
Me too.
And I know that I feel like when someone has like a real experience or a real reality with something, there's a passion and there's a drive behind it. And there's a reality that you can help others have. So I feel like a lot of people are going to be saved and helped because of this. Like it's like taking a bad experience and bringing something good from it, like something fruitful.
There's no other way. I looked at that when that happened to us. I looked at that and at the time, I had a 12-year-old. Now I have a 13-year-old, 7 months later. What are you going to do? You're going to make it go right.
You're going to step up.
You're going to step up. And I could hear him saying to me, like, all the things he used to say to me when he was alive. And I had more or less of not the greatest attitude. He had a better attitude than I did. And now attitude is absolutely everything.
Yeah. Mindset.
Mindset.
Yeah.
And you know what I just also recently went through?
Yes.
With our son, had a health crisis. He's okay now. But if I would not have had the life insurance, number one, when Marcelo passed away, I could not have been with Dylan 24/7. I could not have gone and just paid all my bills. And, that part of life was just on automatic, which was so helpful. And then when he got sick, I could not have been at the hospital 24/7 like I was. He was in the PICU. So pediatric intensive care unit for a while. He was in the hospital for 6 weeks. And very sadly, I have to say that there was moms that were there. There was kids and babies without anybody there.
Because their moms couldn't be there.
Yeah, single moms had to work. There was this one baby in particular on the regular floor when Dylan wasn't on the PICU that the nurses were always carrying her around, and she was a beautiful little girl. Oh my God. And I said to one of the nurses, I said, where's the mom? And she goes, Desiree, she's a single mom and she has other kids and she has to work. I was devastated for her. You know how it is, you're a mom.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing in the whole world to you.
Yeah.
And when your child's life is threatened and you can't be there 24/7, all it would have taken would be, coverage.
A little bit. Yeah. And, I look at it too, and it's like, let's just go with the idea that, it's not going to happen to majority of people.
True.
But the point is like, don't ever put yourself in a position where that is a possibility.
Yeah.
Don't ever allow that to happen.
It's all about protection.
Yeah. It's like the Boy Scout motto.
Yeah.
Always be prepared. When you're prepared for disasters, they don't happen.
True.
And it's like, it's like being able to be like, okay, that's never going to be me.
Yeah.
And okay, here's another subject, right? So you and I having been through what you've been through, and me having been through, like, being in this business, in this industry.
Yeah.
There are so many GoFundMes.
Oh.
And I'll be the first to say, and you know it because you and I both, we donate and help every single time. We do not ignore them.
No.
Even though we're also sitting there being like, this should never be a situation.
Yeah.
Like, no one should ever have to do that.
Yep.
And I know for myself, like, I never want to put people in the position where they have to be doing that for me,
Right.
And
I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine. Like, when my husband passed away, instantly, I went and did a will and a trust. Instantly. That's something else I couldn't confront.
Right.
Because I couldn't look at, one night we went to dinner and I'm like, so if something happens to both of us, who would we leave Dylan to? I instantly start crying. Like, okay. But can you imagine he's an only child? I don't have immediate family that even lives here.
Right. Yeah.
I had to confront that. But it took that to do it.
Right. And I'm hoping that we can raise enough awareness and get people to that point where they can do it and not have to have, we're kind of trailblazing that. It's like, I went through it with my dad who passed away.
I was there that day.
No life insurance, no will, no nothing. He was 50.
Marcel was the last person, I think, in the office that saw him.
It's crazy.
I remember that.
He had it didn't look like that would happen.
No.
Very similar type thing, like a stroke, but very sudden. Everything happened within the space of a day. Young kids, everything. So I don't know. I feel very passionate about making sure that doesn't happen for other people. So yeah.
It all goes back to, your purpose of helping people. How are you helping? Yeah. Well, the last few years has been interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you should get an award for sure for all the persistence, everything you've had to go through. I'm like, first your husband, then Dylan. That was awful, I'm sure, to go through. I'm so happy that you're like through that.
Thank God.
He seems to be doing well.
He's doing well.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's doing well.
That was just like the worst. Like, I can't imagine that. That would be just on top. It's just the worst
I just said no.
The worst thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah, not Dylan. No, we're not doing this. Sorry.
Not my child. Like, that is the worst thing that could possibly happen. So I'm really glad that you were there and you pushed him through, because, that outcome could have been different if you weren't there with him.
100%.
Like, if you weren't taking control and you weren't monitoring what was happening, the decisions, the medical decisions, the doctors, all that stuff.
Oh, trust me.
You had to handle that.
Every single day on those rounds.
You were mom.
I was part of those rounds every day.
Yeah. So those things can go south real fast. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you're able to do that. And
me too. That's what that policy gave me, though.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And my son would not have tolerated me not being there 24/7. We got home from the hospital January 2nd. Mm-hmm. And just last weekend was the very first time he spent the night at his best friend's house. And it was weird for me because I hadn't been like without him, overnight in months.
Right.
And it was weird. It was good because it's growth and it's progress, but it's also like, it hit you.
Yeah.
Because it could have been a different outcome.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
So what message, like, what do you feel is important for people to know? I mean, I think we told the story a bit, but if you summarize things, like, what is your statement? What is your thing that you feel that people should know and should be aware of?
Confront.
Yeah.
100%. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about the way you handle life is over the way, the same way as if you're on a diet, the way you're handling your finances, the way you're handling your children, whatever, right? So I would say, look at that for yourself and be really honest. There's nothing wrong. If you can confront something, you can handle it. That's what you gave me, Zoe.
Aw, thank you.
Because it was really hard for me. I had like all kinds of not good financial habits, and my husband was like, oh my God, like pulling his hair out. You were there. But I could confront it, but I had to have somebody that could really communicate with me really well.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you can do that for other people at a very high level. That it's like that coach. It's like hiring a personal trainer if you need help.
Yeah, of course.
Hiring a financial coach or getting someone, an agent or someone that will work with you because they are better at that than you are. And they can help you kind of hold your hand through that process too.
Plus, there are many things in life where you need two people.
That's true.
You can't just do it on your own. And there's a lot of times where people feel they have to just do something all on their own. And that's the reason they don't make it.
That's a very true statement. I don't think any person was meant to be alone. We are by nature not like single people that just go by ourselves, we do well together.
Yeah.
As a team.
Mean, if I didn't have the tribe that I have right now, I don't know how I would have fared.
Yeah. You definitely had a lot of great friends that stepped up.
A lot.
Very clearly, like they were there for you.
Yeah.
They were in touch with me even.
Oh my God.
So that's awesome.
I know.
A lot of people stepped up to help out. Yeah. That's great.
So my message is that anybody can do it. Anybody can confront something. That it's like the Boy Scout motto for sure.
Yeah.
Because if you prepare, the worst case scenario is that disaster happens and you don't have to think about at least the financial part of it. You cannot replace an individual. But let me tell you something. When, like, I look at this all the time. If I would have had to go back to, I had a very good sales position. I made good money. I really liked what I did. But it took my husband and I to raise Dylan. I would not have been able to care for him the way I'm able to care for him now, like emotionally, even if like just being there in the house, because obviously he didn't go to school for a while.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just think confront, the ability to face is the most important thing. And I'm just here to help people. And I have any industry I've ever been in, from teaching to helping people get off drugs to sales, right? I only would do it if I knew I could help. And that's it. And I've never backed anything or endorsed anything I didn't truly believe in myself. And this is a product I have. And I love learning about all the different things.
I love it. Well, I'm really excited to see what you're going to do.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that's it for today. If you like what you had to hear, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for our next episode.